Hello, and welcome to the Performer's Guide. My name is Krystin Railing, and today we will be discussing naming your business. Naming your business can be confusing at first when you're starting out, and oftentimes this is one of the things that people come to me asking for me to help gain clarity for them on, is naming their business. And if you love the name The Performer's Guide and are inspired by that, let me tell you, that was my third business name actually. And my first business name was Get Your Act Together. My second business name for this was The Business of Performing. And then it wasn't until the third name that I got to The Performer's Guide. So if you're watching this video right now and you're struggling with your name, let me tell you that it's not necessarily the easiest process and can take a few times to get the ball rolling on a name that really hits your market. And it's really important to get feedback from people as you're building the name, because that's what's really going to hit. And a lot of times people go, wow, the Performer's Guide really came out of nowhere this year, didn't it? And they don't realize that I had actually started Get Your Act Together almost 4 years ago as a smaller time, part-time mentorship class that I taught in different festivals. But it wasn't until it became the Performer's Guide that it really hit and became something memorable and a community and something that people were able to latch on to. And so we're just gonna go through the steps that it takes to choose your business name, okay? A lot of times I think people just think of something in the moment and then it sticks, and then it kind of just literally sticks on you, and then it becomes part of your brand unintentionally. It could even have been like a nickname or something that was chosen for you, or something that just sort of was a place marker for your actual idea that maybe just sort of elongated for too long. And I think that's what a lot of people who I'm helping them with their business names, that's what's happening. It's like, oh, this was my name in high school, or this was a nickname in college, or this was a small project I was doing, but then it took off and has become this completely different thing. And then you're in this moment of, okay, I have a moment where I can choose my own name for my business in the same way that you can choose your own actual name too, right? And so you can take a moment and you want to sit in reflection and think, okay, how am I going to choose my business name? First things first, it needs to be easy to spell. And this is a big one. I think a lot of times people have a really great business name and then it's already taken. So they change it and put a Z, or add a double letters, or are changing the name in some way so that they can keep the idea that they had thought of. But what happens is your clients aren't going to know what those changes are if you just say it. And so what ends up happening, like if your business has the word souls with a Z, that's what you're going to have to say every time. Oh, it's Brand Souls with a Z. That becomes the full name, you know, if you have to spell it out every time for them. And so you want it to be something that's very easy to spell. The Performer's Guide. Those words are pretty easy to spell. So if you have your own business name, type it into the chat, type it into the comments below, and I will comment below later and give you feedback on your name, on all of the feedback suggestions I'm giving here. So just in the way that it needs to be easy to spell, it needs to be easy to say. And I think that this is another one that a lot of people suffer from. They think that a word is funny or it looks cool, but if it's in a different language, perhaps it's difficult for somebody in another language to say it. And so you want to really make sure that people can understand what you're saying, because you're going to kind of get that, huh? What? And you're going to have to constantly repeat it. And then what's even worse is if it's not easy to say, you're going to end up having to spell the whole name out, which then again becomes the name. Does that make sense? It's not business, it's BUSINESS. And so you want to just have something, the performer's guide. I can usually just say that once and people can hear and understand and rewrite what I've said. The business name should be catchy and memorable. This is a big one. You want to pretend that your clients aren't very smart. They are, but you want to pretend that they're not. You want to reach the lowest denominator of someone who can't spell very well, doesn't know a lot of fancy words, and doesn't have a great memory. And so in order for it to be memorable, something catchy is going to help them, like an alliteration, something that sort of falls off the tongue. It makes it easy to remember. I think that the performer's guide is pretty easy to remember, and I think it's pretty catchy. Maybe I'm just blowing smoke up my own ass. I think it is. So your business name should not limit your growth. This is a big one, and it can be good to have a limited name if you really want to hit a certain demographic within a certain niche that is very small, and you want to be very specific and hit that market. But then it's going to be smaller than if you had a larger limited name, right? And so some ways that people limit their business name could be having it be a hula hoop company as opposed to a circus company, or being a circus production company as opposed to being a production company in general, right? And so that's one way that you can limit your growth, is by the definition of the services that are offered within the name. And then another way that you can limit your growth is a lot of times people will add a city name or a state or a specific location to the name. Like Portland Juggling Festival is going to have a smaller market than the International Jugglers Association, right? And neither is an incorrect name. You just will understand where your market is. It's more defined, right? Your business should convey meaning. And a lot of times when people hear this, they go, oh, my business name does have meaning to me, the person who created the business, and understands that specific moment in time that happened when I created it, and that makes it magical to me. And that doesn't necessarily convey meaning to your audience. And so what's really important here is that your business needs to not only be memorable, but have true meaning to them. Because when they feel like it's meaningful for them, then they can latch onto it as something that is outside of yourself, right? And this goes back to limiting your growth. Putting your own name on something is another way of limiting your growth that also diminishes the meaning of a business oftentimes. And it's the same way as if I offered Krystin Railing mentorship. It has a totally different feeling than the performer's guide. And so there was a moment where I was clear that people wanted mentorship from me, and that I was going to be transitioning into this different market and a different name. And I quickly was like, okay, and at first it was Get Your Act Together because I was doing stage act creation, and then it turned into like a mindset management course. And then I quickly realized, oh wait, I'm going to do business. So then it became the business of performing. And then somebody in the UK has Make Performing Your Business already, and was like, hey, there's a lot of the same letters and words in there. And so I had to change it yet again. And it was like, oh, okay, what am I going to do? And so I was even in that time, I was like, okay, I need to find something that really conveys meaning to the people, that this is, I am guiding performers, right? And it really is, was a blessing in disguise that I sort of had to stumble, I think, through those names to get to where I am now, because I'm much happier with this name than the other two in the long run. But in the moment, I was like, oh man, it's gonna be a lot of work to rechange, because I liked the names so much. And I loved the first one. And then the second one I didn't really like as much. It was kind of a placeholder, and it was long. And I was actually kind of sad to get rid of Get Your Act Together, but was happy again because I use it as now one of my courses. But you want to really like the name. And once I got to the Performer's Guide, I didn't only like it, I loved it. And I feel like I'm the Performer's Guide. The book I'm writing is the Performer's Guide. The Performer's Guide is with anyone, within everyone, right? Like you could guide another performer. It's sort of this ladder of guidance that I really just, I can latch onto, other people can latch onto, and it became something larger than life and bigger than myself, than Krystin Railing, the mentor, ever could have, right? Oh, okay, so one other thing I forgot to add on to there is you want to kind of short and concise. Even the Performer's Guide, hands down, has been told it's too long. So I'm like, I know you don't really want a 3-worded name, generally 1 word, 2 words tops. The Performer's Guide, that's 5 syllables. That's a lot. You kind of want 1, 2, 3 syllables. Anything more than that, again, people have to remember more syllables, say more syllables. We're lazy. I don't want to type out the Performer's Guide every time, honestly. You know what I mean? Saying the Performer's Guide is long, but versus Uber, right? The taxi company. So, you know what I mean? Like, think about the length of your name too. Okay, so step 2, you found a name, you love it, you're like, this is it. I'm gonna tell everyone, no, don't commit to it. Don't energetically commit to this name yet. This happens a lot, and I did it a few times. I've done it, and I've seen other people do it, and then they go to check the domain and it's taken, right? Or they go and the socials are there or something. And so we want to check the name availability before we have this emotional attachment to the business that we're about to start, because the business really is part of the name, is part of the business, is part of your energy, and it's a whole thing. And when you like, it's a relationship, right? And so if you commit to the name and then the name has kind of already in a committed relationship with someone else, you're like, there's a moment of heartbreak where you're like, what? I didn't know. Okay, so how do we check a name availability? This is a common question I get asked a lot. Step 1 is you can check on the Secretary of State website, whichever state you live in. You can just look up and there's business names there. You can do a basic Google search. I think this is the easiest and most basic. You just type it in, you look at the names. Like for instance, I'm sort of at a disadvantage actually, because the Performer's Guide is a very common beginning name to a book, actually. And it's usually some author, and it's like the Performer's Guide to Stage Presence, the Performer's Guide to, there's like 20 books like that. And so I had to weed through that and go, wait, are these actual business names, or is this just the name of a book? And then there is the website performersguide.com, but it's not even at all in my niche. It's like a political website for some reason. And so those were the things I learned when I did my first basic search of the Performer's Guide, that there's no the Performer's Guide, but I do have a little bit of weeding through that I need to work through. It's not just this completely open field. And then I have some people who, you know, once you Google it, it's like, do you actually want to be associated with it? Was already Googled there too. You know what I mean? That's one I've seen too, where it's like, oh, well, and like you check the photos and you're like, what, this doesn't have anything to do with what I'm trying to have my business be. And so those are some things you really want to look through the images, through the news, through all these things, like what are you attaching your name to? Then you want to check trademark, patents, and copyrights. This is one that I'm seeing someone go through publicly right now, that their name is being copied on the internet and being represented in a way that is subpar and illegal and goes against trademark law and is completely documented. And so had this other person done a trademark search before they started using their business, they wouldn't be going through these potential legal repercussions of using somebody else's trademarked name. Okay. And once we get into trademark, patents, and copyrights, people could actually sue you for replicating their thing, especially if it's in the same niche or the exact same product or service. We want to be really mindful, both ethically, legally, morally, that we're not copying other people's stuff there. Okay, and so the other one is not just a Google search. So Google search lets you know the image of the word and how many people are using it and you know that, but the GoDaddy is a domain hosting site that you can purchase website domains from, and you can go there and like literally first of the page, it's like, what is the domain you want to purchase? And just type in the name of the business as the website and see if that's available, because that's another big one that I've seen people have. They go, okay, there's no patents, no trademarks. I'm not seeing anything online. There's no real social media. I'm going to do it. And they like go through all the thing, they file their business, they get all the social medias, and then the name is not available on GoDaddy, because what happens is there's people who just buy websites. They buy websites because words are combined well, and then they just sit on them, and then they'll resell them for thousands of dollars. And so that's actually why I changed Get Your Act Together. I was like, fuck yeah, Get Your Act Together. That's gonna be my business name. And I looked it up and the website domain was $3,000 because someone had purchased it and was holding on to it. And because of the word your made it very, very expensive, because your, I guess, is typed a lot into Google. So the more common of a word your business is, the better it's gonna be, because more people will drive traffic there, but the more expensive the potential website could be. And so I've definitely had a few clients who are like blown away at the thought of purchasing a $2,000 to $5,000 domain before paying an additional $2,000 to $3,000 to build the website, right? And so you're going to have to do financial calculations to know, okay, is it worth it to do that? And at that time for me, I was like, I don't want to spend $5,000 on a website. I'm just going to change the name, which ended up being a good idea, right? Big one, get feedback on your business name and be an open feedback loop for true feedback about your business name. I think that this is often a forgotten step for business owners. They have a great name, they've done all the work, they researched it, they checked for patents, they've checked the domain, they know all the socials are there, they did all the work. I don't need anybody to tell me what to name my business. Kind of, but also you're in an open relationship with people in your market that you want them to feel connected to your business. And I actually just saw someone just the other day, actually I've seen it a few times recently, of people asking for feedback on their business name or an Etsy page or some artistic project. And like, what do you think? And a lot of the feedback is, I actually don't like the name. You know, I can't spell it. I don't like it. It doesn't sound good. It reminds me of this weird thing. And then the person's like, what are you even talking about this thing? And they look it up and you're like, oh, I didn't even realize that my name would have been associated with this, whatever. And so try not to take it personally either. Just come up with a name, set it on the table, get some feedback, go back to the drawing board if it doesn't work. And it can take a long time sometimes. And sometimes it could be the first thing you think of. And it's easy to get dismayed at this point right here, because you've done so much work. You might have gone through this process 2-3 times in my case, and you're done. You're ready to have a business name. But if you can really just open source feedback and have people go, it's not there yet, and you go, okay, I'm just gonna, you can even hang there for a minute and go, okay, well, I'm just gonna hang with this name for a minute. And that's what I did with, Get Your Act Together. I kind of jumped real quickly from the second one because someone was like, no, don't be there. But you can kind of hang on one you don't like for a minute, but you don't want to maybe publish it or go too deep into your branding, right? But keep going after you get feedback, and make sure that you really find the right business, because once you do, it'll snowball, just in the way that, like, if I look at my finances from the last 4 years of my mentorship and teaching, and the way that the income has skewed has completely changed. And I'm almost certain that, one, it's because I dedicated more time to it, but B, the name change was a huge one. The second I changed the name from, even think of the name, Get Your Act Together, is sort of inherently saying to people that they don't have their act together, right? And then that's inherently going to immediately insult people and then push away the clients that I'm actually trying to draw in, right? Whereas instead of saying the performer's guide, I'm just here guiding you, and you're already a performer, right? And so those are two totally different vibes too. And that was one of the feedbacks that people were giving me from my first business names. And now the feedback I'm getting is that it's too long. And I'm kind of like, well, it is what it is at this point, and that's the other thing too. At some point, it is what it is, and you can take or leave anybody's feedback too. I think that's another big one. You can choose to accept or not the feedback, but then you also have to choose or accept the repercussions, right? And at some point, you're gonna just get negative feedback, right? You're gonna get people who are just gonna go, and you're just gonna have to kind of keep weeding through that. Another one, like for instance, my first business name, Circus Mafia. Oh, I got a lot of feedback on that. People messaging me, the name Mafia, I don't know, do you know, like, negative connotations? Your logo has a gun in it. It was a gun shooting confetti out of a magician's hat, but still, like, I got so much negative feedback about my logo having a gun that I actually removed it from the logo altogether after like year 4 of me just being like, okay, I can't even get feedback about this confetti gun anymore. I'm like, no, it's confetti, And so, but the name Circus Mafia, at some point I was just like, that's the name and I love it, and the clients that did resonate with it really resonated with it. And I knew that I was going to have a really great relationship with them because they got it. And so there's sort of that give and take as well. Okay. We want to be an open feedback loop, but then at some point we close that loop and it is what it is. Okay. Step 3 is securing the business name. So I think a lot of times people just jump to step 3. They have an idea and they either secure it in one of the ways, the social media or their website, or they just announce it. But remember, we first want to choose a really good name and then make sure it's available and get feedback on it and really sit on it for a second before we secure the business name. And there's also this thing that I've noticed, and it's a thing, that when you put something out there energetically, it's out there. And then all of a sudden you're like, wait, how are there two of these same types of projects happening on two different continents of people who've never even met each other? It's happened with inventions historically all over the world, right? And so you want to do your due diligence, but then also I'm kind of like, secure the business, secure it as soon as possible to my clients, because a lot of times people will sit in the indecision phase. I don't know, maybe, I think I like it. Maybe I should get some more feedback. That's just not good enough. If it's good enough for now and you've gotten enough feedback, people can say it, kind of spell it, you've made some sales, it's working, it's available, secure the business name. You can always change it later, and it's not too much of a commitment as much as people think it is, okay? You can really, the only thing that costs money to change would be your website domain. And that's not much if you haven't built it out. And even if you have, it's not a big commitment to change your name. So don't get too hesitant on securing the name as quickly as possible, okay? So step one in doing that is registering your business domain through your GoDaddy, right? www.yourbusinessname.com. I like to use GoDaddy. I'm sure there's others. Secure all social media links, all of them: Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn, Twitter, TikTok. Even if you don't think you're going to use them, secure them. You want to be the one to have them. You don't want to have some copycat taking the name. So I always just secure every social media domain. And then over time, I'll be like, oh, maybe I want to do that. And then I'll go back and think, oh, wow, I've already set up this account. And so you've kind of already done some of the legwork later when you're ready to actually do it. And then filing your DBA. So notice I kind of put this one later. You don't necessarily even have to have your business license to own a website, to have social media names. You need your business license to take in large amounts of money and to do business banking, but that comes later, right? Just like this filing your business came later in the slide. So having a business name and a solid business idea and, you know, getting the business domains can happen before you technically even have a business and before you even know fully what you're doing. So we'll go over more on how to file your DBA paperwork in the filing your business paperwork section in the next video. Many businesses do need trademarks, copyrights, or patents. So you want to make sure to obtain those. But I'm probably going to get one for the performer's guide, because I'm already seeing people using it in other business names similarly. And so if I can just nip that in the bud, no one can ever again say the performer's guide to anything if I copyright it, right? So check out the video. We'll go over the next video on how to file your business paperwork. We'll talk about trademark, copyrights, and patents as well. Okay, great. So that's it. We want to come up with a solid business name. We want to check and make sure that it's available and that people like it. And then we secure the business name. Okay. So if you have any questions or need any help with your business name, please feel free to comment below and I will be sure to give you feedback on your business name. Once again, my name is Krystin Railing with the Performer's Guide.